In 18 years, I've made beats for platinum artists, got millions of streams on my own music, produced a soundtrack for a #1 video game, and today I'm using my experience to answer your questions and give advice so you can become a better producer. So starting with question number 1 from Citic Vicious. I like the way my beats sound, but I know I'm not using EQ in a standard way. Can you help me understand it? So this is something that I struggled with as well until I realized my mistake. Let me explain it like this. Let's say you were a surgeon and you wanted to become better at using a knife for surgery. So you went onto YouTube and you searched for tutorials on how to use a knife. But here's the thing, all the videos you find are made by chefs. But you still decide to watch these videos with chefs chopping up onions and stabbing up all kinds of meats, and you think to yourself, great, I'll use this for my next surgery. What will happen next? The police will probably lock you up, you sicko. And the same exact thing applies to producing too. When it comes to using these standard tools, most of the popular tutorials on these are made by music engineers. And what you need to understand is that music engineers use these tools in a completely different way than producers should. And here's why. A music engineer's goal is to take the music that's given to them and make it sound optimal. So they'll use these standard tools to make subtle changes. But if you're a producer, your goal is completely different. So using a standard tool in a less standard way is actually encouraged. In fact, this is exactly what can result in unique textures and sounds and ideas for your beats. So if you're not using these standard tools in the standard way, that's completely fine because you don't have the same goal that a mixing engineer does. Your standard is to be creative, so feel free to use these tools in a different way as long as the music comes out to your liking. Question from Max Webb. Sounds like a name Spider-Man would come up with to keep his identity secret. I'm suspicious. Recently, I have been going through troubles turning my loops into full songs. I feel like I can create a 4-bar loop that I like, but oftentimes I struggle to make a full song that doesn't sound repetitive. So when it comes to arranging, the mistake I see producers make is treating the symptom rather than treating the cause. When producers don't like their arrangements, they'll try to learn arrangement tips and tricks thinking this will solve their problem. But none of this is actually addressing the real problem. So what is the real problem? It's probably sound addition. Think of it like this. A good arrangement is created by controlling the energy of the track, by creating highs and lows. And the best way to do this is by adding or removing sounds from your beat. So if I asked you how you choose sounds for your beat and your best answer is that you just go by whatever sounds cool, this is part of the problem. You need to know what will actually work with your beat and how to add sounds in a balanced way. Knowing how to do this will unlock so many more arrangement ideas than any arrangement hack ever could. And if this is a skill you struggle with, this is likely the cause of your problem. I recently did a full video on sound addition, so if you need this, I will link it at the end of this video. Question from Cool Something. Is there a more efficient way of finding effects or ear candy rather than just downloading random packs and praying? There's a lot of different ways to go about doing this, but I'll just give you a quick and easy technique that I use from time to time. Take your loop or sample and route it to a separate insert. Then on the second version of your layer, pitch this up or down an octave. This way it doesn't sit in the same space as your first layer. Then add creative effect plugins and use automation to control when you want this layer to appear. This is an easy way to introduce a creative layer of effects or ear candy that not only sounds unique, but will work perfectly with your sample or loop since it was built using it. Next question is from Derek Duverger. Here are the areas that have been giving me problems regarding music production. So he's coming in with multiple problems here. Let's see what we can do. Problem number 1, limited space. Currently living with my girlfriend and her 2 dogs in a small 2-bedroom apartment. Not really sure how I can help you there. Maybe force your dogs to get their own apartment. I don't know. Problem number 2, no desk. I would recommend buying a desk. That is a solution. Problem number 3, figuring out which DAW to use in this stage of my life. I started with Reason and stayed with it for many years until I tried Logic and Ableton a few years ago. This is a common problem in the music production space in my opinion. If you look up which DAW is the best, you will find an endless amount of debates and conversations where people will call each other dumbbells and how real pros use this DAW over the other one. I did a video a while back on Ninth Wonder, a legendary producer who was mocked by the internet for using FL way back in the 2000s. Even after making incredible beats that even landed on a Jay-Z album, Ninth Wonder actually liked and recommended this video, by the way. But the idea behind that video is that actual producers don't care about what you use, because it doesn't matter. You wouldn't ask your favorite author what pen he uses thinking that that's the key to writing a great book. My advice is to just choose one DAW and learn it until it becomes easy to use. From there, focus on actual beat making, because jumping from DAW to DAW isn't the game changer that you think it is. Next question is from Grout, who, by the way, has been supporting this channel since way back. I actually looked it up, and his first comment on a video of mine was from when I had 1,600 subscribers. So I want to give a special shout out to Grout, an absolute legend of the channel. His question is, how do you come up with your own style of beat? After watching tons of interviews of my favorite producers and reflecting back on my own experience, I believe the path to creating your own style is similar for a lot of producers. First, you start making beats because you're probably inspired by one producer. So you learn everything there is to imitate that style. Let's say that this color here represents that one producer's style. But after a while, you'll probably feel like you want to learn more. Maybe there are one or two other producers who you want to learn from as well. So we add a few more colors to this. And this is when you start to form your own original style. It's this intersection here of your influences and the different ideas and techniques you learn from them. This ends up being your own new and original style. Yes, there is nothing new under the sun, but combining multiple unique inspirations and techniques that no one else has, it can help you naturally develop a style that is at least different than everyone else. This is also why I say that there's nothing more boring than a beat made by someone who only listens to beats, because their influences will be so common that their style probably won't be all that unique. But there's another part to the equation here, which is to have the courage to even create this. I know for me, sometimes when I make a weird beat for a video, there's a part of me that gets worried or even slightly afraid, because I know people will leave comments like this. But I also know that if I let this become a voice in my own head, I'll eventually become too afraid to try anything. So it's important to have courage. And courage only comes after you do the thing that you're afraid of, not before. So put those weird beats out there, my friend. Next question, this is from Spectrum. I see a lot of producers are able to make beats within an hour. Are you able to do this? What tips can you give to make quality beats faster? So I am at the point where I can make a beat within an hour, and my belief is that the way to get here is through problem solving. Let me explain what I mean by this. Right now, you probably struggle because there are tons of problems that you have when you're trying to make a beat that you have no solutions for. You have a unique loop going, but now it comes time to make a drum pattern around it, and you have no idea what to do. Or you need to make a bass line that makes your beat sound full, but you have no idea what will work. Now, when I first started making beats, it would take me hours just to come up with one solution for just one of these problems. And sometimes my solutions failed, but sometimes they worked. And when they did work, what started to happen was that I used this solution again and again for other similar situations. And this became my go-to. And as a side note, to go back to the point that we talked about earlier, this is basically what a style actually is when you think about it. You can think of a producer's style as simply the way they solve the common beat-making problems in their own unique way. And as you continue to solve more and more of these common problems, you will build this index of solutions that your brain can quickly reach for. And this is basically how you finish beats faster. So that's the unfortunate answer to your question. You have to continue to suffer through these problems until your brain builds your own set of solutions. Or you can learn them directly from others, which is why my channel exists. Question from Ralph Beats. Is there another YouTuber or producer you like to collab with? I'm not really big on collabing, maybe it's just the introvert in me, but there are a few YouTubers who I really like who I will take this time to recommend you check out. Snap Makes Beats, probably the funniest beat making YouTuber I've seen, a great example of finding a unique angle to make beat making videos new and interesting. John Makes Beats, I remember listening to his beats around the same time I got serious about making beats myself. Great beat maker, seems like a nice fella as well, who's been around a long time. And I don't know if this counts, but DJ Dahi was streaming on Twitch at one point, and he is, in my opinion, a living legend. His name deserves to be up there with the all-time greats in my opinion, like The Alchemist, Dilla, whoever. I would just love to watch him make beats and see how he puts ideas together. Question from Darth Cheeto. Is it lazy to find a nice 4 or 8 bar loop and just repeat it for the entirety of a song, especially if you're just starting out? So the last part of your question is important. You mentioned that you were just starting out. And if that's the case, I actually think you're doing the right thing here. I wouldn't worry too much about arranging if you're just starting out, and here's why. If your core loop doesn't sound all that good for the 4 or 8 bars that it lasts, the chance that it will just magically sound good for a full 3-minute arrangement It's just very low. So if you're just starting out, I think it's completely okay to focus on only building core loops and getting good at that, even if you don't bother arranging your beats fully. Like I mentioned before, the skills that you learn doing this, like sound addition, will help you make better arrangements anyways later on. So this is yet another case of building the fundamentals before you move on to the next skill. Next question is from Nandez. How the hell do I get the sounds that I want? Sound design is so hard. It seems like everyone magically has the sounds that they need. I'm so frustrated with this. So this is something that I was frustrated by as well when I first started making beats. I felt like I had all these amazing, perfect sounds in my head, that if only I could create them, my beat would suddenly become perfect. And as years went on and I got better and better at making beats, I noticed that whenever I would be able to create that perfect idea in my head, it actually wasn't all that great in my beat. And I realized that the ideas that I had in my head were just ideas, same as any other. You might think that they're perfect right now because they're the only ones that you have in your head, but believing that this one sound or one idea is going to be the key to unlocking a great beat, it's a mistake in my opinion. For me now, whenever I'm adding a sound into my beat, I no longer obsess over trying to create the exact sound that I have in my head specifically. Instead, I think about the characteristics of that sound. Am I imagining a sound that has a lot of sustain to it? What are the frequencies of the sound that I'm imagining? Is the sound close or far away? Once I have these characteristics in mind, I look for the types of instruments that have those characteristics. And this gives me many more ideas that I can try and test out instead of just being married to one. So my advice here is to learn the common instruments. What are the characteristics of a piano, a Fender Rhodes, an organ, a guitar? What makes these different from one another? And once you have a framework for categorizing all these common sounds, you can match what's in your head to them. And this makes choosing the right sounds for your beats much, much easier. Question from Musiccountant. How do you choose a specific niche when starting? Many genres feel interesting, but on the other hand, is it really going to help me grow? So this is a tricky question to answer. My thought on this, while it sounds artsy, I feel is actually practical, and that answer is to just pursue what interests you. This is cliche advice you've already heard before. Create what you love, blah, blah, blah. It will feel great and fulfilling and satisfying, which is all true. But when you look at this from a practical view, think about it like this. If you tried to focus on a genre or style that you didn't really like just because it's popular, what are the chances that you'll actually succeed? Because you are entering into a competition with someone else who does have a genuine interest in that genre. So what are the chances you'll be able to outwork and outperform them? After you spent 3 hours working making beats, you're tired because it's not fun for you. But that other producer, they can go for another 8 hours because they're not working. They're just having fun. So you might as well do what interests you to begin with. It's the best chance you have at success anyways. Question from Zap. What lessons or concepts do you wish you had learned earlier in your music making journey? I apologize if you heard this story before, but back near when I first started making beats, I felt like there was always something wrong with whatever I made. I never knew why, so I started to do research online. I followed the common advice I saw everywhere online, and I still see this to this day, which is the problem that I was having was mixing and mastering. That if I learned how to mix and master, that my beats would suddenly sound good. So I thought, perfect, this must be the solution to my problem. So I signed up to a mixing and mastering class in my school, paying almost $800 for it. And after this 6-week course, I basically learned the exact same stuff you can learn on YouTube for free. EQing, compression, all the same old stuff I already knew that didn't help my beats at all. So I thought, well, they probably didn't teach me the right stuff. So what do I do next? I paid multiple engineers to help me directly. This cost me multiple thousands of dollars, but I thought being able to talk to these people directly and ask questions will help. So I did. I asked them, why do my beats sound so bad? Not only did they have no idea how to help me, they didn't even know what I was talking about. They couldn't hear the problem that I could. So it was a huge waste of time and money. After a few more years of experimenting, trying to figure out what mistake I was making, I finally realized what I was doing wrong. I was choosing the wrong snares. That's it. And none of the mixing engineers were able to help me because they didn't understand beat making. And this is the lesson that I wish I learned early on. It's like the third time I've mentioned this, but knowing the fundamentals, like how to add sounds into your beats correctly, it's so key. All the problems that you think you have, like mixing or arranging, are all downstream symptoms of this root cause. So if you don't know the fundamentals, you don't have the frameworks, and you're just guessing every time you make a beat, you may end up wasting a lot of your best beat ideas like I did. So yeah, fundamental skills, learn them. And finally, last question is by Terrell. I've been making beats for years now. I definitely have gotten better over time, but I think my biggest problem has been consistency. Some days I can knock out 4 to 5 beats in a session, while other days my ears are just not in the mood to listen through samples and sounds, and some days I dread even opening my DAW. This is something that a lot of producers struggle with, and I'm thankful that I came across this one particular book in my early 20s because I think it directly helped me solve this problem and get to where I am today. And that book is Dianetics by L. Ron Hubbard. No, I'm just kidding. It's called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Right next to me is a short podcast where the author of this book explains the ideas in it, and I think this will help you never get beat block again if you watch it. So watch that video, but if you want to watch that one video I mentioned earlier where I break down the fundamentals of how to add sounds into your beat in a consistent way, click this other box that just popped up next to me. So click one of these. Also leave a comment with a question for the next time I do one of these videos, but yeah, click one. Come on.